Hello, Alice. You have come back to the Mad Tea Party at a opportunistic time. I have some very special guests with me. You remember Adam from Drone Collective has been on before. And then to his right, we also have Josh and Ethan, also of Drone Collective. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Absolutely. So if y'all just want to real quick introduce yourselves to Alice and what your roles are in Drone Collective.
Sure, I guess I'll start. My name is Adam. I guess one could say I'm the architect of the Drone Collective. Really starting to hammer in lately that we're not exactly a band. It's kind of this amorphous lineup of a variety of people who show up in different capacities and contribute to this really unique sound that we've been building over time. As far as my role, I, on this recent album, have played guitar, bass, drums. I played a pipe organ, I played a piano, and I also, this time around, composed a lot of sheet music. I did a lot of orchestration. I orchestrated strings, I orchestrated brass, woodwinds. And before I hand it over to my group mates over here, I did want to also introduce Rumi and Reza, who unfortunately could not attend due to a work conflict. He was very instrumental in this project. He is of Hanna-Barbera, Cartoon Never Made. He played electric guitar on the first two tracks. He helped track the first two songs, and he also mixed the first song. And he's also helping me with the physical releases. I designed the physical artwork. He went ahead and actually printed them, which I appreciate. And I also would like to give a shout out to Alex Shore. He was the cellist for the first two tracks. And I'd also like to give a big thank you to the probably dozen or so session musicians who were a part of this project as well, who contributed their unique sound and really helped this project come to light. And with that, I'll pass.
I'm Joshua Brown. I was a recording engineer, mix engineer for four of the songs of the album, out of the 5 song album. And some mastering as far as playing goes. Played drums, percussion, uh, different production elements like synthesizers, guitar. I played the harmonium on Terminus. And I'm gonna pass on to Ethan.
Yeah, I'm Ethan Hobson. I helped with a few different things in the project. I kind of helped do some location scouting for figuring out where to record some of the parts for Corridor. So, and then also helped with the recording of that song, at least for the pipe organ, the cello, and the piano on that. Um, I worked on some synth textures and some of the arrangement for I want to say Morton, at least the
Synth parts.
yeah, synth parts on that. And then I worked on playing accordion with Joshua on Terminus,
Yeah.
which was a lot of fun. And then I also helped with some location scouting for photos and yeah, just like some stuff for the artwork and the cover for the record.
Oh yeah. The record in question is Corridor. That's out January 16th. Definitely check that out when that comes out. And I had the pleasure of listening to it earlier today, and I just really like the soundscapes that you create. It's very different than a lot of the artists that I interview and talk to. Like this is it's very different, and I really enjoy what y'all do. This was heavier in a lot of ways than the last record you put out. What was the name of that one again?
That was the eponymous debut, Drone Collective.
Yeah. I enjoy. Oh, that's right. It was, yeah. I thought I couldn't. I was like, does it have a title? It's like, okay, it's Drone Collective. Yeah. But yeah, like I really enjoyed that record. Since we did that podcast, I've listened to that one like probably 3 or 4 times, and it's I think there's you know the longer song is like not something people do very often, and I love when artists like take their time and like really make make a piece that's like fleshed out, and I feel like a lot of the tracks on this record are like that. So yeah, I enjoyed it.
Thanks.
Yeah.
The longer the better, I say.
Yeah.
So I guess to speak on some of that, some things I've kind of flirted with saying in the past is this desire to create a new genre of music. That's a little pretentious now on the look back, but what I do want to do is create the most unique and novel music, something that has never been done before, something that facilitates a deep experience within the listener, something that hopefully heals the listener, takes them on a journey, and helps them in some capacity. So that's the motivation behind absolutely everything underlying this music, is to help the listener however I can.
Yeah. Who did vocals on it?
I did vocals on the second track. Joshua did vocals on Morton.
I wrote the song too. I should have said earlier. I'm a songwriter.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You had your monologue in Victory of the Psychosis.
I was
That's
just
like iconic.
when I was listening to it, I just had my headphones on, and when I listened to it, it was an album stream, so I kind of like got an idea of where tracks started and ended, but I wasn't
Yeah.
exactly sure.
Mhm.
But first time vocals came, especially because I'm familiar with the first record, when vocals came in on Corridor, the first time it happened, it actually startled me
That's the point.
because I was
Yeah.
sitting there with headphones in, just drawing,
Yeah.
and it actually scared me.
Yeah.
Like, it was very effective at doing that.
That's
Yeah.
the point. And one thing to point out, just to give credit where credit is due, is at the end of Victory at the Expense of Psychosis, which is the second track off of Corridor, I quote excerpts from Childe Harold's Pilgrimage by Lord Byron, which is a piece that is way too long for me to have read, to be honest, but there were a few excerpts in there that were especially profound to me and really spoke to the topic that I was trying to convey in that song. So, and they were not very well known, so I thought might as well incorporate them there in the public domain.
Oh yeah.
I will say the first time that I actually heard somewhat of a finished master of Victory at the or Victory, I was laying flat on my bed with my headphones like on, connected to my computer. I was just starting to fall asleep, and then the whole monologue came in, and I woke right back up. Maybe jump.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun.
Definitely angrier and darker than the previous release, but
Yeah.
I had a reason behind that. Some of the context behind it, which I have explored in Instagram promotional content. I was studying the Middle Ages. I took a 3-course series on the Middle Ages by Dr. Philip Dayleader from the Great Courses, and I discovered this really disgusting recurring theme across history where, just to quote the monologue directly, the king bequeaths his kingdom to his children. One or more of their sons don't like what they get. In the case of the Carolingian Empire, Charlemagne's grandsons, they were fighting over each other. They were literally killing each other, and it rendered the empire ungovernable. It caused the death of however many hundreds of soldiers fighting against each other, and ultimately eroded at the well-being of everybody involved. And the selfishness of that, the willingness to destroy one's own kin, just really struck me as something that needed to be discussed with stark parallels to modern day.
Mhm.
Nice. Yeah, I mean the first album is like, it's very gentle in a lot of places. Like, I mean it gets into like more turbulent areas, but it's like overall like a very like gentle spiritual journey, I felt like. And this album has a lot of that too. Like, this album goes into that place as well. But then it also, like, I did not expect that at all. Like, just it gets like violent and scary, and I'm here for it. I really enjoyed it.
I'll say a couple things on that. One is the darkness was in no small part influenced by Rumi and Reza, who again is not here today, but is instrumental in the Drone Collective. He is a metal musician who is involved in a variety of other metal projects that are worth checking out. And that obviously influenced me to go into a bit of a darker direction. But another thing I'd like to point out is that I've really been interested in trying to explore what darkness means. Frankly, when I have often went to DIY shows and I see hardcore acts, sometimes I hate to say it, but sometimes it's a little bit uninteresting to me. A constant onslaught of aggression with no reprieve, with no dynamic range. what I want to do is basically convey what darkness can look like across a variety of different modalities. What I mean by that is one thing that was a big influence of this album for me was I've been listening to a lot of classical music the past couple of years or so. Classical music back in the day, they had no amplifiers or anything like that. They were able to convey a whole gamut of different emotions with different tools than we have to this like currently. And I was very inspired by that. In a way that I employed that, a great example of that was in Victory at the Expense of Psychosis, where you have the loud monologue, you have distortion in the traditional sense. Everything fades out and then it moves to a solo cello. And in my opinion, that solo cello playing that interval is so dark in and of itself, it rivals the previous section. And that's the kind of emotional range that I wanted to convey with this project, how darkness can look differently in different ways.
But then following that cello point, it just like explodes into this insane drum beat and guitar solo that like it totally elevates the like darkness. It's like the exact contrast of it. It's like this epic kind of bombastic almost moment of energy that happens that comes out of this darkness, which I feel is very reflective of like the dark night of the soul and the way that we transform through that darkness, or like when we put ourselves through the suffering that we experience and like we relinquish it to our lighter selves and we change.
Hell yeah.
But,
very Jungian.
Yeah. No, truly. And like I mean the whole that whole track starts with like field recordings of like birds in the background and like soft rain, and there's so much peace that comes from that track, and then it's just yelling in your face for like 4 minutes. Like
I really enjoyed all the like the birds and the rain. It was nice.
So much texture,
very well
detail.
Produced.
Thank you.
Well, definitely got to credit Joshua for that one.
I genuinely thought it was like really impressive from start to finish.
It's so like I had somebody tell me that it's almost like a Pink Floyd level song. They were like the amount that it changes and is orchestrated. It's it's very epic.
Is that one of the last tracks?
Which one?
Victory.
Victory is the second track, but both Victory and Morton, the second and the fourth track, and the Dungeon, the third interlude track, were tracks that I composed, I orchestrated for a variety of instruments. And something that allows is a tighter control over the sound.
Yeah.
Because when you write sheet music, you can tell the performer exactly how you'd like to have it played, and you can also direct them during the performance. You can tell them the articulation. Are you playing it staccato or legato? You can tell them what's the dynamic, how loud do you want? And it's interesting because in the past, for the first album, I worked with people who had autonomy to write whatever they want. But to be honest, this music is really long and complicated, and it's incredibly difficult to get anybody on board to actually learn the songs and participate, which is okay. The easier way I found is to just write it out and just have them come for a session and pay them. And
but even like when it comes down to what they played, like it was maybe like 80 to 90% accurate because they still have their own little taste. Like John would have those little lead lines in there with the trumpet, or like Katari who played the flute, like she would do little runs and stuff, even though the note was just like you're going from this note to this note. She would like intonate or like add different little flavors in there. It's a mix of what you're creating and people's interpretation of it, which makes it sounds so alive. Like when you listen to the music, it really sounds alive.
I really enjoy. There's a few new sounds that really just weren't present on the first record. Like I love the fact that there's horns and that there's flutes on this one. I would say I really love Victory as a track, and I really love the beginning part when all the flutes and the horns are all kind of doubling the guitar, and there's just such a slow. It starts off so like nice and sunny and warm and almost kind of floaty, and then as it just like the tempo just starts speeding up, and all these runs that earlier on you were feeling like, oh, this is like really nice and this is so pretty, it just starts becoming more and more aggressive and building up. I love that as an aesthetic, the idea of like something in one context can mean one thing, and then as you just slowly morph it, it's like, oh, I mean, it's kind of like the idea you were talking about earlier of darkness. It's like something in light can look so pretty, and then something in darkness can just look horrifying. The kind of thing where in like, I don't know if you've ever been to a house that has like dolls or old dolls or something in it, where and like the daytime you're like, oh, these look really friendly and nice, and then at night you're like, these are gonna kill me. I'm going to die. And it's just through like the notes, they don't really change. It's just through tempo and through intensity that this secondary characteristic of it comes out. It's really fun. It's I really didn't have any hands on Victory at all. So when I finally got to hear that track in its entirety, I was so surprised. It's like you were saying, like Pink Floyd, or like you were saying, classical. It feels like a suite of music. So I got a lot of privy to like,
I mean, you gave creative input. We had like a day where we listened to like rough mixes.
Yeah.
With Ruby and
yeah.
yeah.
I remember having a lot more input on Morton than on Victory, because Victory felt like one where there was so much going on, where most of what I had to put in on it was just like, oh, this part could be a little louder, this part could be a little quieter. There's nothing musically where I felt like I could add or take away from.
Yeah.
It just, from entering there, it was just like, oh, I can tell it's not complete at the time, because I don't even think y'all had like made the B
We
section
didn't
for
even
that
mix
yet. So I was just coming through and being like, oh, this is awesome. And it's a really fun experience, because a lot of times I'll be like hearing a track and being like, oh, I can hear a melody or something here, but I heard this and being like, I know it needs something else, but I can't hear anything to add or take away.
I will say that is something that Joshua recommended. There was a while, just being honest, where there was just trombone, cello, guitars, some drums, and I was thinking about just being done.
I was like, it needs an orchestra. And then it just came down to like trumpet. And
I was thinking about just throwing in the towel and just like not working on this anymore. And then Joshua said we need horns, and then I had a question I had to ask myself: is do I throw in the towel, or do I invest a few more $1,000s to get trumpets and to get a tuba and to get flutes? And then I chose the latter because of my mental state or whatever.
Good decision.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Good decision.
Yes.
I was gonna ask about the name Corridor, but I feel like y'all already kind of answered that a little bit. Is like what you were saying, Ethan, about context, like, and just like like similar movements and sounds in different contexts, and just like a transition and a movement between those things. Am I close?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't honestly reflected too much on the name of the title. There's a couple things that come to mind. One thing is that when you think about classical music, and it's very pretentious to say, but I really would like to view this music as modern classical music.
Yeah.
But classical music is, especially symphonies, concertos, they're formed in movements. They're not songs. This idea of a progression, this idea of change from one place to another, that is something that the corridor really allows for. Another thing that comes to mind when you think about a corridor, you think about similarly moving from one place to another. I've been sort of playing into this sort of language in the promotional content of when you enter the corridor, moving from one place to another, perhaps having some sort of change, some sort of experience, some sort of apotheosis, some sort of meaningful experience that produces some sort of meaningful transformation within oneself, and emerging perhaps different than before.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I'm just gonna bounce off that real quick, because a corridor as a room is, its whole purpose is just to take you from one room to another. It's not a room that you're meant to stay in. It's just a room you're meant to move through. So yeah, it's just interesting. I personally, when I was younger, I used to want to be an architect. I wanted to build houses and spaces. I kind of do that virtually now with music. A lot of the music that I make personally is very spatial, reverbs, delays, movement. But I remember being younger and like experiencing these interesting rooms where you're just walking down long hallways. And there's such an interesting feeling to that of being like, oh, this is a room that you're not meant to stay in. Like you're just or I also a lot of times too they're pretty like cramped, like not very big spaces. Like I remember even the hallways or the smaller rooms when I was a kid, you could like sit down and actually like stretch your legs out, and even being pretty small, you're like, oh, I can fit my whole body just right here. So I I think that's really fascinating from an architectural standpoint, and also from kind of the philosophical standpoint you're thinking of. It's like it's a space meant for transition. It's not a space meant to stay in. It's a space meant to move through.
That's really cool. What I just heard is that this album is a liminal space.
It kind of is.
Yeah.
Like, how did I get here? I don't know. Oh, this is cool. It's like, oh, I don't know if I should be here.
Yeah, well, it's interesting to point that out because nothing stays the same. And it's true of the first
That's
album, but especially of this album, when I was composing the bars and music, nothing stays the same.
Mhm.
I almost have an allergy to repetition without purpose. There is repetition on the album, but with intention. Every single moment changes. If you were to look at like Victory at the Expense of Psychosis, we're kind of poking at that track because it's the longest track.
It's so strange because I feel like you made a theme of an album that was the theme of the year 2025 because it feels like that was an entire corridor. And like,
oh, interesting.
And that was kind of like what whole like what Morton was for me. It was just this like I'm just going through these these temporary spaces into like small spaces. I mean, you saw that basically Morton was about literally it was about this like crazy landlord that I moved in with like in May, and this guy was just like fucking nuts and like threatened me, dude, just like fucking weird dude. And this guy had like like abuse like charges like online.
Aggravated
like,
assault was in jail for a year.
Yeah, and it was in jail. And so I like moved into this. I was moving out of the house I lived in for about 5 years, and there was like some flooding and stuff, and they were repairing the house, and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna move out. Like it's better. It was about the time my lease was ending. And so I moved out and I found a place on Facebook Marketplace, and it was just this like small little upstairs kind of duplex like house that was separated from like the first floor of the house. And but yeah, the landlords are crazy like that. But it was weird because it was such a transitionary period, and I feel like there was so much independence because I was living on my own, and then just moving out of that situation. I lived there for maybe like 3 months, and I was like, "Oh, absolutely, fuck this!" Like, I feel like I'm gonna die if I live here. But it's so funny because like that's reflective of the album in itself, and also just like the grander theme of the transition into the administration that we have now and the American system. Like, this is definitely a corridor that we're going down. This is a huge transition.
I fucking hope so. I hope this is not the destination.
What is the point of winning all these wars?
Yeah, I mean,
Oil.
There's so much context from the album that's is reflective.
It's funny how like art, like I don't know, what you're reminding me of is like alchemical principle, like as above, so below. Mm-hmm. It's like macro microcosm. It's like
it is.
It's like y'all made a snapshot of in a period of time, which is like any art you make is going to be contextual to when it was made.
Oh yeah.
And it's like y'all really did take a snapshot, and that like speaks to like larger scale in it can like find little.
Oh, I wanna jump off the idea of a snapshot real quick, because a lot of the vast majority of this record is all Adam's main compositions. Just like I remember one of the first times I went over to your place and you showed me like the sheet music you were working on, and some of them I think were prototypes of some of the songs on this record. But that is so antithetical to the way that I personally work, which I find it so fun. It's the kind of thing of like you're doing something one way, and then somebody else does something else in such a radically different way from you, and you're like, oh, but you're not only able to achieve the same effects, you're able to do things better than I can, and it feels invigorating. Um, that digression aside, um, Terminus,
I'd love
the
for you to
last
talk
track,
about that, yeah.
is a snapshot. It is the first time that me and Joshua really played music together. And that whole track is, I think mostly it's just one take that we did on an afternoon.
It was 40 minutes of music that we had sequentially
Wow.
recorded, and then we kind of composited the multiple takes into one 10
Well,
minute
that's
long
like
song.
it reminds me of uh, Dishes Brew, Miles Davis.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Just like long sessions and just meticulously stitching pieces together. Like
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
so cool.
I just want to say one thing, and I want to completely give it to them.
Oh yeah,
that
yeah.
I felt like I had enough of my footprint on this thing. I did God knows how many instruments and whatever on the first 4 tracks, and there were invitations for me to perform on this last track, but I denied it because I really wanted the idea of the collective to be truly a collective. And so I was there the entire every step of the way listening as a happy participant. And I'm so
Yeah.
glad I took a step back because they really did something special at the end of the album. In my
That's
opinion.
really cool.
Yeah. I know one of the things that you and I chatted about a lot was um I'm a big proponent of imperfections in music, of things like coming around, notes not being exactly right. There's lots of tunes that I've made that have been like, oh, I really didn't like that. Like I knew I put in wrong notes, and then I'll come back to it like a month or two later and be like, oh, this is really beautiful. I love this. But I also know that that is very much not how Adam works.
No, I hate imperfection.
Yeah.
I hate it.
Yeah.
I want it to be perfect.
And so something that I have been able to see in this project, and the idea of too, you saying about giving up control, is I know partially this project for you is embracing going against your nature and embracing a little more of the imperfections and things. A lot of the times when I came in actually adding things on tracks, it's really just me improvising things and adding in layers and textures and having the opportunity to add in these bits of just like, oh, I don't know exactly what I'm going to add. Let me try it. Let me see what's going to fit. And I feel really, really privileged, honestly, to be able to come through and with my little smudgy fingers and just be like, "Ooh, this is nice. What's going on?" And mess around with the puzzle pieces. And I know that all my stuff afterwards, like Joshua would come through and be like, "Oh, that's loud. Let's mix that around. Let's move it around." And you're like, "Oh, let's add this part in. Let's take it out." But I don't know, just from my perspective, I've seen you pushing against that tendency, and it's been really cool.
I'm trying.
Yeah.
It's a mental health thing. I really want it to be perfect, but I was recently told by a fellow that imperfection makes it more real.
Yeah.
I'm learning to let go.
So that's why I'm like, that's why every time at any point of any of the songs, I was just like, leave it alone.
I know it's funny for
You'd be like, no, you have to. I'm like, no, just leave it alone.
For Corridor, Rumian told me, like, he told me at one point, he's like, I'm done, and I'm like, okay, but maybe, and he's like, no, I'm done. We're done. You can't argue with that. So
I'm still so happy with how Corridor turned out, but
okay.
there's a bit of how that whole project was recorded that was honestly so gung-ho. We ended up recording the organ, the cello, and the piano at the Trinity Presbyterian Church.
Wow, okay.
So that's a real pipe organ.
Oh, shit.
The cello is being played in a church sanctuary, and the piano is an actual acoustic piano that Adam is playing, as well as you also played the organ.
That's hard.
Yeah, in the church's music room.
That is so cool.
So that was such an interesting recording session because that was the first time that Adam had ever really gotten to play, as far as I'm aware, an actual full pipe organ.
I practiced. I actually mentioned this in another piece of promotional content. I did practice a lot, but nothing can prepare you for the fact that there are multiple notes on the bottom that you control with your feet.
Yeah.
No amount of practice can prepare you.
Organs are set up with having manuals, and a manual is like a keyboard, basically. So this organ has 3 manuals. It's 2 that you play with your hands, and then a 3rd that you play with your feet. And then there's also 3 different sets of expression pedals. And you have stops that you can control to turn on and off racks. And racks are full sets of pipes, and the pipes are 88 notes. And so this pipe organ has something like 14 racks. So anytime you're changing the note, you're manually turning on and off an entire set of pipes. Whoa. That could be an independent instrument. So it is a beast to learn how to play. Stuff, right? Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And because I do video work at Trinity, I hear this pipe organ played every Sunday, and hearing how people use the instrument is always really interesting. And the way Adam plays it, I'd never really heard it played that way before.
Wow.
It's really fun, like hearing different people's touches on such a massive instrument is such a joy, but also that was so frustrating to record. We had 2 separate laptops set up. One was Rumian's down towards the front of the sanctuary with I think it was like a 3 microphone array set up recording. The faraway mics as a room mic setup, and then I was up in the loft doing a close mic setup, and then between every take we were having to do a sync clap. And then and then we had to go through and do takes and takes and takes and make sure we were both labeling the takes correctly, make sure that so we would be screaming back and forth like, hey, do we take this one? Are we deleting it? What are you naming this take? And then going through, and I think I'm working in Ableton. I think Rumian might be
in Pro Tools.
He was in Pro Tools.
It was an all-day affair. I bought us fajitas.
Yeah, it was great. No, you DoorDashed us fajitas, and we had those. It was great.
It was the least I could do. I mean, the least I could have done was spin your faces.
Yeah. But that being said, and we did the same process. So when Alex came through and did the cello recordings, which I think we did those the same day.
We did that the same day. Yes, and you had mics in the 2 different sections.
So both of our individual session files was all the organ takes, and then we would flip who was the close mic and who was the far away mic.
What the fuck?
When to do the cellos. So I was when we were doing the cello recordings, my microphones were now the far away microphones, and Rumian's became the close mics. And then at the end of it, I had to export every individual take and make sure it matched up with how Rumian was labeling his takes, and then Rumian had to go and composite it.
Oh, by the way, that wasn't it. When Alex went into so Alex was a cello player. He wasn't familiar with the piece at all, and there's a lot of time signature changes. So what we did is that I had a mic on the outside of the church so that the mics wouldn't pick it up, and I was counting 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 when his like note would change.
That was really funny because like from up in the sanctuary, I was just listening to everything because like I'm monitoring it, and then I could just really hear like Adam really quick. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, it was a seductive whisper.
4, 3, 2, 1. It was. It's the kind of thing where knowing. I don't think listening to the track you could ever know that that's how it was put together.
Yeah,
but
I'm surprised it was put together to begin
with. And then that same day we tried to fit in doing all of the piano recordings until we were eventually, I think it was me and Ruby, and we're just like, it's done for today. It's done. Yeah. We can come back another day.
Very understandable.
And then we came back and once we came back and all of us were refreshed, it was lickety split. We got the piano recorded,
Yeah.
and then
There was
Rumian had the Sisyphean task of stitching it together.
I appreciate him doing that. There's a
Yeah.
lot of orchestral techniques I employed throughout this album. For example, on Corridor, I did doubling of the piano and guitar. Victory at the Expense of Psychosis, there was doubling as well. There's also canon in there. There's really complex harmonies, time signature changes, tempo changes, changes in timbre. I studied orchestration from like Mozart and whatnot to really try to see if I could come up with something unique this time around.
Yeah.
Well, y'all should be very proud of yourselves.
It feels good to give, and that's
Yeah.
really what music is for me. Is the giving.
Yeah.
I have a really funny DAW mishap since we're talking about crazy
Yeah.
editing bullshit. Wait, what was this Victory?
Yes, it was.
So
It
we
was
were
all
doing
Victory.
and so I dropped in all the stems, like all the files that we had recorded at the studio I work at, and the ones that y'all did with Rumian and stuff. And I think I was like adjusting the tempo. I was trying to get the tempo right between all the tracks, and somehow I like ended up warping all of the tracks when I did that. And so I then add in your like acoustic track, which we got later, and then we were like trying to track the flutes.
Nothing was matching up.
And nothing was syncing up, and I was like, why is this all fucked up? And I realized that I made the song. What was it?
No, I realized that. I'm the auto engineer genius over here.
Oh, okay.
Just
well,
kidding.
you called it out, and then I realized what was happening. You were like the guitar tracks are slower, and I was like, oh, that's because I changed the BPM.
I literally paid session musicians while the tracks were not synced up. It was so stressful. It was psychosis.
So
But you did come out victorious at the end.
I guess so.
I took all of those other tracks on a separate session and then sped them up the same BPM. I think it was like 15 BPM.
Yeah.
We actually made the song like 2 minutes faster.
The song was originally 18 minutes, and then we like kind of made it 15 BPM faster, which I think ultimately served the song.
It made it 15 minutes long, and it was so much better in comparison.
Yeah.
The song flowed way better.
Oh yeah.
And it felt way more concise for how long of a song it was. It was just one of those happy accidents and editing nightmares.
Oh,
what the
yeah.
fuck is wrong with this shit? Like, why isn't this working?
I also had a situation during Morton where there were issues with the score and my computer was on the fritz, and so I was like on the floor, man, because I can't read music, so I was just like, oh my god, how do I correct this? And like the violinist, he was like, oh, this mad scientist over here. I'm like freaking out because I'm like paying him right now. Yeah.
Hell yeah. Do you have any shows coming up?
We have a show at Gunk House January 22nd. Also a show at Strawberry Basement March 7th. And there is an album release show at my house on January 16th. We're just going to listen to the album and have a good time.
Also, I don't want to alarm anybody, but I did hear the laptop make a big doing sound just a moment ago. So I don't know how to check if everything's okay.
Oh, I am so glad you said that. I need to plug in the power. Thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah, of
Thank
course.
you for
I'm gonna go to the
letting me know
bathroom
that.
I'm going to use the bathroom.
Yeah, we can pause.
Maybe
Yeah.
we'll be together.
Across the street.
Okay, we're back. So, yeah, tell me about Dungeons.
Okay, so we've talked about pretty much all the songs except the interlude track, which is called The Dungeon.
The Dungeon, sorry. Singular.
It's all good.
Dungeon.
I composed this song however many months ago, and as Ethan knows, I gave it to him and I was like, can you play it? And he said no.
So Adam sent me like an MP4, like texted it to me. It was like, hey, I've come up with a new track. I was wondering if you could, do you think you could be able to play it? And then I listened to it, and one, I was like, oh, this is awesome. Two, I don't know if I could physically play it, and I also don't know if anybody else could physically play it.
And he was right. So I ended up, my mastering engineer, Sam Chassie, he knew someone, I guess it was his teacher. He lives in Connecticut. His name's Istvan Bayratz.
Whoa.
And he told me, even if I was Yujo Wang, professional pianist, I still wouldn't be able to play these rhythms. And so we had to do some layering techniques where he would record one side and then the other side, put them together.
Like he would record the bass sections and the
Yeah.
treble sections separately.
It really does sound like this like demented sort of playhouse sort of
Yeah.
carnival situation. It's kind of like a like actual black MIDI.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know how to write for piano, but it ended up working out.
We had a like preliminary listening session when all the masters came together, and Rumian had a really good anecdote, which was like, yeah, just halfway through, the pianist grew a third arm.
He said that? I've heard
Yeah,
that.
yeah. And the thing is, I was listening to it and being like, there's no way, because I could tell it's a actual person playing it and just being like, I cannot, this person has to be an octopus or something, because there's no way they did this in one take. And so when I learned afterwards that it was split between two, I was like, okay, that makes sense. But it was actually a really interesting experience listening to it without context, just being like, that's not possible.
Like,
what
am I hearing?
Yeah, it's mind bending.
And that's what I'd like to point out real quick is that I don't give my session musicians an easy time whatsoever. If I'm going to be paying them, I'm going to make them go through blood, sweat, and tears. The trombonist for Victory at the Expense of Psychosis, I told him for 3 minutes, I said, all the rules, all the traditions, all the conventions, everything you were taught in your little trombone school, you're going to forget that, throw it out the window. I want you to go hard in the paint, express your deepest, most primal anger. And by the end of his at the end of the session, he was literally tomato red and drenched in sweat. And I remember like all these other session musicians, they're getting so tripped up at the time signature changes, and this pianist, he's like, I can't play this. I don't give him an easy time at all. It's very complex music.
It is.
Yeah.
There's like a fucking 1,000 layers to everything.
Yeah.
There's moving
And
parts
then there's some where it's just like only two. Like, I mean, honestly, it's probably only about 2 layers for dungeon. Maybe like a few different takes, and then it's only like one layer or 2 layers for
2 instruments.
Yeah.
I meant just like moving pieces. Like there's a lot of instruments and certain sections, and you're right though. It's like
I just like the dichotomy. Yeah. Between like, oh, there's like, I don't know, what's the most instruments at a time? It's almost like 12 or
something like that. Victory at the Expense of Psychosis, it'll have 3 trumpets and 2.
It might be 24 tracks at once.
Yeah.
Because there's synth layers, and then there's like effects layers that are just adding texture.
And then sometimes it's just down to 2. And I think it's
or down to 1.
Yeah, it's just really, really interesting, the fact that you can just like get all these similar sorts of effects just like on different, kind of like what you're talking about before, like as above, so below. Just like you can get the same effect on this like macro level and the same effect on this micro level. Just
that is something that Gustav Mahler did. It was a big influence. I mean, for example, his Third Symphony, I mean, he would have like 4 oboes, 4 clarinets, 4 bassoons, just this gigantic orchestra, so big, in fact, that it's not often played, even though it's a pretty well-recognized piece in the orchestral canon. It's just very logistically difficult to play out. And the crazy thing is, despite this giant sprawling orchestra, he'll have moments where it's like just an oboe or just a violin. It really, I mean, talk about dynamic range. That influenced me a lot in working on this piece.
Even like a solo piano concert, it's just like that can be very emotional and provoking. And it's just the one instrument,
Yeah. I think as like a middle point to the record, Dungeon is so interesting just because it's so radically different than every other track.
It's so like Final Fantasy.
And despite like the rapid time signature changes and the rapid just how everything is shifting, there are these bits that come through where just these beautiful, really catchy rhythms where it's suddenly you're just like, what's going on? And suddenly there's just like a rhythm that comes through and you're like, oh, yo, that's awesome. And then it's gone.
And it's gone.
Yeah.
And it's gone.
It's so much fun. It really, I mean, the fact that that one's right between Victory and Morton.
Yeah.
And it almost has a little like modicum of both to it, where there's still some of the, well, no, actually, I think the connecting point between the two tracks is the insanity.
Yeah.
It's the fact that there's the insanity of that and the insanity of Morton, and it's like two different looks at like the same kind of insanity.
Yeah.
It's not like this one's pure insanity and this one's and Morton and Victory are both like analysis of like different kinds of insanity. Well,
Yeah.
Dungeon is just like, here's the insanity.
Yeah. It's not a corner you want to get stuck in.
No, that's the no one wants to get stuck in the dungeon.
The dungeon is like the patriarchy. It's like the system.
Okay.
It's like the system that trickles down the fucking bullshit that causes all of the suffering that we feel at the bottom. You know
I'll
what I
just
mean?
say for the
It's
record,
like
I didn't think about this at all. I just wanted to write a ridiculous song.
Yeah.
Always interpret.
Yeah.
You can interpret it however you want, but I just wrote a silly song.
Adam supports the patriarchy.
But even then, I know in sequencing my own projects, it's so interesting once you make all these pieces individually and then you have to sequence them into an album. And then once they all come through in a sequence and you listen to them, some new stuff emerges. It's like, oh, you're now, even though like you're saying this isn't intended, it's still fun to be like, oh, hey, I can see the connection. I can see why this works. I just find that interesting. Like there's the, because I didn't really have any input in the sequencing of this album at all, and I think it's sequenced very well.
I knew exactly what the track list should have looked like.
Yeah, it's yeah.
I have a very strong vision. It just costs a lot of money.
Yeah, you got 2010 vision, super strong.
Speaking of strong, how strong is your tea over there?
It is. I still have my oolong tea leaves sitting in the bottom of this, so it is very strong. I'm well caffeinated. I'm enjoying it immensely.
We were talking about tea on the break.
Yeah.
What are your, in general? Just give us some thoughts on tea.
Okay, so
Give us the tea on
I'll
tea.
give you the tea on tea. One of it is that I think things like tea and coffee, and I mean, even to a degree, like all these other plants that we've really spent so much time and energy kind of growing alongside of, that like tea itself has had such an influence on like our culture as a world. It's something that is part of people's daily
Universal.
lives, like trade routes, empires.
Wars.
Yeah.
All for a plant that just humans have spent a lot of time cultivating, have figured out ways to brew it into things that we really enjoy. And I think the act of that is so interesting.
They find that in ancient times, civilizations which had tea, they were less likely to have dysentery because they were boiling the water.
Oh,
for
whoa.
tea. And so societies that had tea were less likely to be sick.
Interesting.
And I don't even know if they knew. You know
Wow,
what I mean?
that's really fascinating, especially from the fact that, a lot of people view tea as being inherently medicinal.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I on a sense of like agriculture, like intention put behind growing plants. I did not make this tea. I'm the benefactor of, I mean, I brewed it, I boiled the water, or more accurately, my electric kettle, which I also did not make, boiled the water. I simply put these oolong tea leaves in my thermos and I poured water in it, and it made a lovely drink that I can enjoy all day. But it's the fact that so much time has been spent figuring out how to dry it out, figuring out how to compact it, figuring out which leaves are better, which plants are better, what flavors it's going to bring out. Generations, hundreds of years of human intention and thought put behind something that I can drink daily and still enjoy. I think a lot about that, especially in the senses of our things that are both like our great joys and also our vices. Like the fact I used to work at a wine store, and the fact that so much time and human energy and effort has been put into growing grapes to ferment, to turn into wine, to drink. And how that there's something really beautiful about that. The fact that so much human effort has been put into the ability to grow a plant that just so happens to have chemicals in it that the human body doesn't interpret directly as poison.
Yeah.
And instead allows us to have some sort of enjoyable experience with it. I mean, it's marvelous.
Yeah. It's countless centuries of industry
Yeah.
leading to that cup. Yeah.
Yeah. And the fact that even nowadays, the way that even though like oolong is a fairly old process of making tea, like even nowadays, the way that we are drinking it is so different from the way that other people have drunk it. The way we drink coffee nowadays is so different.
How's it different?
So have you ever heard coffee called Java?
You can thank Gen Z.
Yeah.
They fucking figured. They
The
exponentially grew the coffee game.
Yeah.
Like,
one of the reasons coffee used to be called Java is one of the biggest exporters of coffee was the island of Java. But they didn't want to actually ship the beans over because then they would lose their like basically monopoly on coffee. So what they would do is they would just brew it in huge barrels and then ship the barrels over to where it needs to be. Which meant that a lot of the coffee coming over it's pre-brewed barrels of coffee on half a year long expeditions back to where it's going to be.
Gotcha.
Which means that sometimes the barrels would be basically fermented coffee. Possibly toxic, sometimes not. But that being the way that many people exclusively were able to have such a like universal beverage was you had to have it shipped from an island in Indonesia to be able to have something that we nowadays like have as something that's just standard as part of the at least part of the American diet.
We live in a society.
We do indeed. And it means I have tea.
Hell yeah.
And that bit I enjoy. But the ramifications too of having tea means that there has to be global trade. And historically, global trade, even though it's been cool, has meant that a lot of people get horribly exploited.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyways, those are my thoughts. That's the tea on tea.
Yeah.
At least a modicum, a very small amount of the tea on tea.
Thank you for that. It's we live in a weird time right now.
Yes.
I think about that a lot, and just you're talking about this, the culmination of history leading to this moment, and all the just lifetimes and cultures that have risen and fallen alongside plants, like alongside agriculture. Is this?
I think about corn in the same way too. Corn is a marvel of human. It's amazing. Because like the actual original plant that corn came from had 9 kernels on it.
Oh, really?
And it was about this big.
I know oranges are kind of similar too.
Yeah.
That's a pirate thing. Like
yeah.
Not exclusively pirates, but like,
no, it's a very important if you want to continue to be a pirate.
Yeah. But like just moving tropical plants from place to place. It's like what's the other word? It's not pirate, it's privateers. It's like,
yes.
There's people moving plants around. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of the things we have now is like that's a lot of GMOs and like none of the produce we have is what it started as.
No.
Right?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
But even then, like all of the plants that we even historically save for like the very original people who would be going around and hunting and gathering berries and whatnot. Well, that's the crazy thing too, because just human interaction with plants influences their development. So even before we started agriculture as we know it, which is like we're going to collect these seeds, we're going to redisperse them, we're going to selectively breed these plants, our interaction with the plant is already influencing how it's going to develop.
Sure.
So the fact that humans have been evolving in and alongside plants the entire time, I think is amazing. And the fact that
Isn't that how like peppers developed? Is like it was a plant that didn't want to be eaten, so okay, we're gonna make ourselves really
Yeah.
spicy.
Specifically
And then we
by
were like, oh, we love-
birds.
Oh,
Yeah.
capsaicin.
Yeah.
Oh.
So birds can't actually process or taste capsaicin.
Mhm.
And the reason that's good is because birds' intestinal systems can't actually break down the seeds of peppers, because peppers have seeds that are very delicate. So what the pepper is trying to do is basically be like, oh, I want to make sure nothing else eats me, because if something else eats me, it's going to destroy my seeds. So my seeds won't be able to grow. But if a bird eats it, it can poop it out like so many miles away, and it'll grow just fine. And then humans came along and was like, oh, that hurts. Ha, that's cool. I'm going to eat that. Because we process so many things in nature in ways that are just not intended. I mean, we like nicotine. We think it's awesome. Nicotine is a pesticide. It is something that the tobacco plant literally makes to make bugs go away. It developed it as a way to control the amount of time pollinators stay on flowers. So if like a bee or like a mosquito or something was staying on the flower for too long, it literally starts secreting nicotine. And so that's toxic to the bug. So it just goes, oh crap, I don't want to be here, and it goes away.
So much of the things we're talking about right now too, like capsaicin, nicotine, like what's appealing about that is the novelty, right? It's like
Yes.
It's not even that it's like I love spicy food, but it's also painful, right?
Yes.
What
Yes.
you appreciate about that is that it's different. It's and also like I guess also like just the history, right? Like a lot of different hands went into the process over, you know, not just right now, but just over time have gone into the development.
I mean, cigarettes is like almost purely an identity. As somebody who smokes cigarettes, it's like, well, you get fucking 10 minutes of horrible enjoyment. Like it tastes like shit, and you feel like shit when you smoke it, and you're like, oh, I smoked a cigarette. like maybe you feel buzzed for like 15 minutes.
I think alcohol is a good example of this too, where it's like, I mean,
it's a cultural thing.
Yeah,
it's like
obviously, like I drink, but like drinking alcohol for the first time is not it's an acquired taste. Like your brain has to Pavlov itself into enjoying it. Like you're not going to enjoy that the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's in I don't want to say inherently a negative experience, but alcohol is microdosing neurotoxin.
Oh, it's poison. Yeah, absolutely.
It dampens your nervous system. That's why as you indulge more and more, you have worse control over your motor functions. It's dampening your actual physical control of your motor system. Yeah.
Damn. And I bet that has permanent effects, I'm sure.
Very much so. Yeah.
It's so interesting.
Oh yeah.
Mushrooms it'll like destroy your motor system while you're on it, but it repairs neurons in your brain. Oh, wow. It's like almost like the alcohol, like the opposite of alcohol, but it has a similar kind of drunkenness effect where you're like, okay, I'm inebriated and I can't do anything. Mm-hmm. Don't make me responsible for anything. Don't make me drive. Don't make me work. Like I will fuck this up because I'm tripping balls.
This is actually something that my brother observed when he went over to England and Scotland for the first time. Because he had never been over there before. I've never actually been out of the country, so I know that a lot of my viewpoint of the world is just completely, despite trying to look outside and trying to see how other people around the world do things, it's hard to understand like, oh, people, things are different other places if you don't go other places and actually experience it.
Mm.
But one of the things he noticed was that, like, oh, drunk driving kind of isn't as big of an issue over in England because you can walk places.
Mm.
So he was able to like go and walk around the city and be like, oh, I can actually go to a bar and drink what I would like to and not be worried about being stuck there.
Yeah, it's not.
And-
it's
Especially
not
like Great
small.
Britain's like the size of Texas or something.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like
I think Texas is bigger than Britain.
yeah.
But I'm not, that could be incorrect. I'm not the best at geography, but
But your entire country is like, oh, I can drive 3 hours to the nearest city. And that's
yeah.
fine.
It's the idea of 45 minutes is a long drive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And how just like I thought that was so interesting just because it's something I just never considered before. Being like, oh, well, that's not as much of a problem because like you don't have to drive everywhere.
Yeah.
And that it's such a problem here because the ability to get from place to place anywhere in the United States is kind of, unless you're lucky to live in a city that has good public transportation, is entirely inherent on you having a car.
Yeah.
You being able to transport yourself.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some thoughts. Some thoughts.
So we'll close on this. When I say ghost story,
Mhm.
what I really mean is just a paranormal experience. I mean, that's such a vague definition in itself, but just something that defies modern understanding of like reason and physics. What something you would consider supernatural or paranormal, I suppose. Does anyone have any experiences like those?
That's a good question. I can talk about experiences that really like shifted how I viewed the world. Maybe not so much supernatural experiences, but experiences that were more like spiritual or more like completely just shifting me out of what I thought the world was going to be like. I can remember one really early on. I was not very old. It was the first time I saw an active tornado. I was on vacation down in Florida. I was on the second floor of a condominium, and I watched a water spout, which is a tornado over the ocean, moving up and down the coast. And that at the time was some of the most visceral terror I'd ever experienced, because I don't know. It's the kind of thing, I'm sure partially it was like movies and TV and just like my parents talking about how this is a very dangerous thing. You've got to be like, you can't be around for this. But it was also watching how it was legitimately affecting the weather. Like once it popped up, the way the rain worked shifted. Everything was coming in almost horizontally. Seeing it move like a living creature, knowing how big it was on the horizon, being able to see the fact that there was a boat out there, and knowing that I have maybe like some modicum of idea of how it was created, but also knowing like I have no control over that. I'm just witnessing it happen.
And seeing that with your eyes too.
Yeah.
Like, water's not supposed to travel upwards. What is this?
Yeah. So I remember it was just a combination of like being so scared and also like a combination of like legitimate awe. Like I am witnessing something that is possibly the closest I can think of as magic or like an eldritch god.
Yeah. Maybe that harkens to like what ancient cultures must have thought of, like developing entire mythologies around events like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sorry, we didn't cut you off.
Oh no, you didn't cut me off anyways. And then like the other thing I can think of is the first time I went to a show, like a music show, and really like had a transcendental experience. I in 2018 I saw the saxophone player Kamasi Washington come through and play Marathon Music Works in Nashville with his band the West Coast Get Down, and that show was so amazing. By the end of it, I had to sit silent for half an hour because I had had what I could consider the first actual spiritual experience of my life. I had left that show understanding why people go to church. I never really understood it before, but the way my brain figured it out was like, oh, if I was able to get that experience from a show, and that was that intense, if there are people who go to church every week and are able to achieve an experience like that, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
It makes perfect sense why people go to church every week.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are the two that off the top of my head that I can think of.
I grew up religiously, and like leaving that community and finding my local music scene was like replaced that community that I'd lost, and it is very live music's a very, very spiritual experience, and it saves lives, you know.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't be here without live music, and all that to say, what you do is very important.
Mhm.
You know, you may not realize the impact that it has on people, but and I would say kindness in general has like long-reaching effects that we don't really, you can't possibly begin to wrap your head around. Just a smile, you know, you don't know how that's going to change the trajectory of someone's life. I would say, you know, negative interactions do the same thing, right? It's like you hurt. That's why I have this, one of the main things like I've been thinking about like the last year is evil is ignorant. That's not to say that there aren't intelligent evil people, but those people would be smarter if they were good. Because even if you don't have empathy for other people, if you can't see how your actions are going to come back and bite you, that's ignorant. Right?
Well said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so I
Intelligence is different than wisdom. Yeah, that's like wisdom comes from a deeper knowing and in a place of faith, whereas like the intelligence is like this almost egoic kind of framework for how we think the world works and how we think people are treating us.
yeah.
But like wisdom would be like giving somebody compassion for not being there for you rather than taking it personally, thinking that somebody's a vanity. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. Josh, do you have any supernatural experiences?
I have had a plethora of supernatural
Me
experiences.
too.
I work at Skull's Rainbow Room, where the owner was murdered in the building.
Whoa.
And, at least 2 different people have killed themselves in that building. And there has definitely been a handful of experiences that were creepy as fuck. But I could speak on the latest experience, which was back in October. It was actually Adam and I lived together, roommates, and I was up late one night and I was hanging out in our game room, which is kind of just like a lounge room, and the air just got super cold, and I was like, man, I feel really weird. And I've had a plethora of like strange supernatural or spiritual experience in my life. And I just got that feeling. I was like, I feel like I'm just not alone. And I walk into the kitchen and I see this like Southern Belle-esque, almost like it's almost like a projection of somebody or like another layer of like reality. And it's this woman, and she's got the Southern Belle like dress on. And I've seen ghosts. I saw ghosts as like children, and a lot of the times ghosts aren't necessarily prepared to be perceived because they're living in this kind of in between like plane. And when you see them, it almost freaks them out, or it causes them to almost like reach out to you in a way, which is why like an interaction with the spirit is very like forward and demanding is because they're like, oh my god, I'm being perceived right now, and they like want to latch onto that energy of like life essentially.
Okay.
And so I saw this woman, and I could tell she was freaked out. She was like bug-eyed, and she was like, holy shit, like. And I was like, okay. So I didn't really react to her. I just kept walking into the living room, and she kind of like followed me into the main space, and I sat down, and I was like, okay, so what do you want? And she was like, I am stuck here. I was like, I've been looking for my child, um, and I was like, she seemed concerned about something, but she was looking for a child, and I was like, look, there's nothing for you here. I was like, I understand that you're like from your time and from your like space, and I was like, you can go back to where you belong. I was like, you're free to like leave the space. I was like, I was like, what you're looking for isn't here, and I was just like, I was trying to be very like compassionate and just like in space, and a lot of I wasn't like physically speaking to her, but a lot of it is like um psychic. That's like you feel the like wavelength of what she's like of what she's like giving off to you. And after I kind of like let her have peace, I was just like have peace with yourself and like leave. You don't need to be here. Like your child is like gone. And she just kind of left, and that was basically my latest like experience.
Wow.
I've only had like a handful of like truly weird experiences, maybe like 4 experiences. That one was definitely weird. Um, I don't know. I've meditated a lot, and I've done a lot of like astral projection work and stuff like that. And so dealing with beings, I've had like basically what you could call like full DMT experiences, like sober, just like through meditation and through astral projection and stuff like that. And like when you're dealing with astral beings or like archetypes, like Carl Jungian kind of like archetypal beings, you're you're dealing with like the energy of them. And so you may like some people are clear like visual, like they can see otherworldly beings, but other people hear them, and some people hear voices. Like I think that there needs to be a deeper study on people who have like schizoaffective disorders, because I think they are just people who have they can sense what's happening beyond reality, or like what the Eastern philosophers call Maya, which is like the thing that is creating the 3-dimensional world. And I think that shamans are people who you could diagnose as schizophrenic, but they have a deeper attunement to what's happening in the spiritual realm. But they exist in the 3rd dimension, and they can kind of bridge the gap. And I think people Western philosophy has a very skewed. They're very like 3-dimensional based, and you call it the matrix, but like the 3rd dimension is like it is what keeps us trapped. It is like the samsara of life, which is just like this wheel, and you're constantly sucked back into it. I don't know. I could.
Well, I think we're gonna have to talk about this more in depth, because I have a lot of you're talking my language right now.
Yeah.
About like we'll talk about that later, because or we could do another one of these sometime. But I will just leave with this, I guess. You reminded me of when you talk about schizophrenia and shamanism. It reminds me of one of my favorite authors, Alan Moore, has a quote. The language about magic is more about language than it is about magic. And the words we put on things are just that, right? It doesn't really.
I mean, people say that like magic is like spells, but you think about the words that we speak as spelling. You think about the word spelling. You're spelling your words, and when you speak, it's almost like casting. And it's a trick on somebody, or it could be, but it's casting intention is what it is. And magic is intention.
And whenever we talk about the occult topics, it really brings to attention just how strange language is, because we're using this like blunt instrument to like for like a task that it's not really adequate to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like the spirit carried through vibration,
Yeah.
through the air. We literally like, okay, I'm gonna use my body to vibrate the air right now, being based off of what I'm thinking, and that's just like somehow that is
Mhm.
conceptualized, and everybody sees it different. What I'm saying resonates differently with everybody because of their preconceived,
Yeah.
their subconscious design, which is beautiful. I mean, like it just adds so much variety to the way we experience life. Very trippy stuff.
Well,
So-
gentlemen, appreciate your time. Check out Corridor. The Corridor?
Yeah.
That
Corridor.
I think so.
Who knows?
Thank-
Check out the Corridor.
Thanks for Alice for joining us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alice is beautiful. She's been hanging out. She's been real quiet this whole time, but she's just been
She doesn't
hanging
say
out.
much.
Yeah.
Yeah, just chilling, listening.
Watching, always watching.
Kind of creepy, really. She doesn't
Ever-present.
blink.
Yeah, that's okay. Just maybe she's just blinking when you're blinking.
Whoa, that's even weirder. That's even weirder than not blinking. That's precisely the exact amount of time that you're blinking. Well, check out The Corridor by Drum Collective, out January 16th. And then, yeah, they got some shows coming up. Just one more time.
Album release party, January 16th, Gunk House, January 22nd, Strawberry Basement, March 7th. Trying to book more. Stay tuned.
Mhm.
Adam, Josh, Ethan, thanks for being here, guys.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
And we'll see you next week.